Seches Bava Kamma Daf Pei Zayin. We begin in the middle of the Gemara's discussion of the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda about blind people and what they are patur from. The Gemara will bring several additional brises about how far Rabbi Yehuda takes the patur of the blind. Then we'll introduce our next Mishnah, which is a lengthy Mishnah going back to the halachos of the 5 types of damages that a person pays if he injures someone else. And the Gemara will get into the halachos of injuring a child, when they have to pay, when you have to pay, and specifically what happens if it's one's own child. So let's begin. The Gemara has said that Rabbi Yehuda already patters one. We've already said that he patters a blind person from having to pay embarrassment, from having to pay for vaishes. We also said that there are several other halachas that he patters them from as well, including malchus and a accidental killing, where he would ordinarily have to go to Galus, so he doesn't have to go to Galus if he was blind. Now the Gemara brings another brisa where Rabbi Yehuda says a summa does not have to pay the baishis, and he's also patur from all dinim, all mishpatim, all court acts. And that the Gemara learns is because it says v'shavtu ha'ida bein hamake or bein gel hadam, discussing the redemption of someone who killed someone by accident. It says that it uses the term mishpatim there, and it says al ha-mishpatim ha'ila, about all these halachos, about all these mishpatim. So it links the mishpatim, all the dinim of a court, to the concept of the galus, that is the kapara of someone who kills someone by accident. So you see those two are linked, and if a blind person doesn't have the galus achas, he doesn't have all other mishpatim as well. We have another brayso that takes it a step further, and here he says that he's patur from all mitzvahs in the Torah. And that's because we link mishpatim to all mitzvahs in the Torah. We've already just derived mishpatim in the last brayso. This one links mishpatim to all the mitzvahs, and that's from a pasuk that says ve'ila mitzvahs hachukim mishpatim, that mitzvahs and mishpatim go together. A person who's relevant to mishpatim is relevant to mitzvahs. A person who's not relevant to mishpatim is not relevant to mitzvahs at all. So about that, the Gemara quotes Rav Yosef. Rav Yosef was blind himself. And Rav Yosef said, in the beginning I used to say that anyone who says halachos like Rabbi Yehuda, I would make a yontif from him, because since I'm blind, I thought it was great that a blind person should be patur from all mitzvahs. That way I'm doing them anyway, and I'm being a couple more schar because I'm patur from it, and I'm doing it as a volunteer. He says, but then I heard about what Rabbi Chanina said, that it's greater to do a mitzvah you're commanded to than to do a mitzvah that you're patur from. And now I used to make a yontif if anyone said that halacha is not like Rabbi Yehuda, and therefore I would be commanded, and I'm going to get more schar as a mitzvah v'ois, is one who's commanded and fulfills it, and as the ein mitzvah v'ois, as someone who's patur because I'm blind. We now begin the next Mishnah, lengthy Mishnah. So it begins by comparing the damages of a person to that of an animal, let's say an ox. So it says that a person has 6 stringencies. The first 5 are that he needs to pay 5 types of nezek. He has to pay nezek, sari, bosheves, and vaishes. And an ox doesn't have to pay anything. He only has to pay nezek. That is, his owner has to pay the nezek, doesn't pay sari, bosheves, and vaishes. Now, the other stringency is that if a person kills another person or makes a woman miscarry, he has to pay for the child, while an ox who causes that doesn't have to pay for demei vlades. Okay, Mishnah goes on to another halacha. If somebody hits his father or his mother, or if he hits someone on Yom Kippur. So it's possible to be mischayev ben nafshay for either of these 2 things. If he would do that, he would be patur from having to pay, because kimli b'ramine. But that would only be if he makes a wound. So if somebody makes a wound, draws blood for his father, mother, or anybody on Yom Kippur, he would be mischayev ben nafshay. If it's not Yom Kippur, if he does not draw blood, so then he doesn't get misa for hitting his father or mother, and he didn't do a malach on Yom Kippur, so then he would need to pay, he would be chayev for that. Now, what about avadim? So the Mishnah says if somebody hits an Eved Ivri, he has to pay all these things. Eved has rights to all these things. But Sheves, he doesn't have to pay if he's his own Eved, because since the Eved is meshubah to work for him, if he loses work, he's only losing out on his own. He doesn't need to pay anything, because it's his own right. Somebody strikes an Eved Kanani, so if the Eved Kanani belongs to someone else, he has to pay everything, and he pays it to the master, as we'll see soon. Rabbi Yehuda says an Eved doesn't have boishes at all, it doesn't have to pay for the embarrassment. Now the Mishnah takes a break from Eved, we'll come back to it, and it talks about Cheresh, Sheita, V'Katan. And the Gemara says you don't want to be involved in any injurious activity with a Cheresh, Sheita, V'Katan. You're going to be on the losing side either way. If you injure them, you have to pay. If they injure someone else, they are patur. An Eved and an Isha. So the similar situation, you don't want to be in any entanglement with them either. If you injure them, you have to pay. However, if they injure you, so on the spot they're pater because they don't have any money of their own. However, it could be that they'll get money later. So if the woman gets divorced or the eved becomes free and they acquire property, then at that point they will be chayiv to pay for whatever injuries they caused. Now the Mishnah brings in the one who hits his father, mother, or Yom Kippur, that is pater. And then it says, to wrap up the Mishnah, somebody who causes a chavala on an Eved Kanani, who's his own Eved Kanani, is pater from everything. Now we begin the Gemara, focusing on injuries to the child. So the Gemara says, Rabbi Elazar asked Rav, what is the halacha if somebody causes a chavala to a girl, a minor female, a kitana, and she was not his own daughter, someone else's daughter? So the question is, who gets the money? Is it awarded to her or is it awarded to her father? The reason it should be awarded to her father is because we said, Kol Shach Nurim Lavia, all the payments of her na'arus, of her childhood, goes to the father, because he has the ability to marry her off, and he would collect that money, and therefore he now takes a loss on that, because she's decreased her marriageability because of this injury. So therefore, do you say that he has the right to that? Or do you say, no, the Torah gave him the right to marry her off, and therefore he can collect the Kiddushin money because of that, because he can use the right, he could give her to a Mukashchin, or somebody that she wouldn't want to marry, therefore he has the rights to that. But Chavala, he doesn't have the right to hit her, he doesn't have the right to injure her, and therefore he can't collect that money at all, and therefore the payment would go to her and not to him. Where it says that Rav answered him that the money goes to her, not to the father. The father only has the right for Shvach Nurim, which means to be Makabel Kedushin and keep the Kesef Kedushin. First, two kashas on this. First, we have a brisa that says that somebody who injures an, we have our Mishnah where we just said someone who injures an Eved Ivri has to pay all the types of payment to him, except for Sheves, if he is his own Eved. That's what we just saw at the end of the Mishnah. So, if he's his own Eved, he doesn't have to pay for Sheves because he owns that work. So, that implies that if somebody owns the profits from somebody's work, he doesn't need to pay for the lost work. Now, father owns the work income from his daughter because he's supporting her, he feeds her, and therefore any money she brings into the house goes to him in exchange for that, and therefore why should he have to pay for her Sheves? At least that he shouldn't have to pay for. So the Gemara says, Abaye answers, the Rav agrees. Yes, Rav says that Sheves he would not have to pay for because it goes to him. He was just talking about the general concept of payments. The father is only Zeicha in her Kiddushin. Now the Gemara's second kasha, we have a brisa that says if somebody injures his own child, so if it's an adult son over the age of 13, he has to pay him for the injury right away. If he's a child, he has to put it in storage, he has to keep it. The Gemara will explain soon how you do that. And then when the child grows up, he gets the money. If it's his daughter who's a katana, he's pater. Not only that, but if someone else injures her, has to pay it to the father. So you see that you do have to pay it to the father. Why does he say you don't have to pay it to the father? So Gemara says that this is talking about Sheves again. This is talking about the loss of work, and that's money that goes to him, and therefore, if it's him who injured her, he doesn't have to pay himself for the loss of work, and if someone else did, he has to pay to the father because that money goes to him in the end. Now, the Gemara has several kashas on this brisa itself that we just brought about when one injures his own child. So the Gemara says, okay, we saw that if somebody injures his child, if he is a grown boy, he has to pay him right away. So the Gemara has a kasha on that. The brisa that says if somebody injures his own sons, or if someone injures sons or daughters of someone else, so if they're adult, he has to pay them right away. If they're children, he puts it aside in storage. If it's his own children, then he's pater. So Mishnah says he's pater straight up. Why did previous brisa say he's chayiv? So Gemara says there's two types of one's own children. There's ones that he's feeding them. That's what the Gemara calls seimach al shulchanei. They recline at his table. He's feeding them, and therefore he owns their earnings, and therefore he doesn't have to pay them. However, if they're not seimach al shulchanei, they're independent, then the money goes to them, and therefore he has to pay them. So Gemara says, okay, so now let's analyze. So the first brisa which we quoted, where he has to pay them, you're saying the pshat there in that brisa is that they are not eating at his table. So if so, let's pay attention to the case of his daughter who's a ketana. If she's not eating at his table, she's supporting herself. Yeah, we said that he's pater, doesn't have to pay her. Why should he be pater if she's supporting herself? He has to give her. She keeps her own support. She keeps her money for her food. He can't not feed her and then say that she won't get her own funds. Now we do have an opinion that says for an Eved Kanani, you could say something like that. he could say, you work for me and I'm not feeding you. After you finish working for me, go work for yourself afterwards. Now, there is an opinion he can say that. There's most opinions that he can't, but there's an opinion he could say that. But for everyone agrees he can't say that. It says, Toiv le'imach, he has to eat with you, drink with you. Everything that you get, he gets. So if you're on a daughter, certainly that's true. So he can't therefore have her not be fed and then say that she can't keep her own income. That's for sure not true. So therefore, if we're talking where she's not Samech al Shulchani, so he's not feeding her, she keeps her income, why should he not have to pay her for the hezek that he cost her? So the Gemara answers, he only has to pay her for the amount of the food. She only has the right to keep the amount of the food. And any income that she earns above that amount, he collects from her. And therefore, if the injury is above that amount, then he would collect that money. He would not give it to her. Says Gemara, okay, now we have a question on the second brisa. The brisa we said is talking about where they are Saimach al Shulchan Avihim. So if that's true, so let's look at the halacha where he injures someone else's children. So we said that if they're adults, he has to pay them. If they're children, he has to put it in storage. If they're kitanim, why does he have to put it in storage? If they're eating on their father's table, it should go to their father as kitanim. So what's pshat on that? Why does it have to put in storage to wait for them if they're Saimach al Shulchan Avihim? So the Gemara says, because the father only collects things that he's makbid on. He's only makbid on things which come earnings from the Welt, from the world. Something which is their own earnings that they deserve, he's not makbid, he lets them keep that. And this is something that they earned through the pain of the injury that they got, he allows them to keep that. He also allows something which is a loss to them, that they suffered a loss in order to earn, and this can be viewed as a loss. Gemara asks if we're discussing hakpadas here, what is makbid on, what is not makbid on. And in the first brisa, where it said that if someone injures someone's daughter, they have to pay it to him. So this is pain that she got. It comes from Alma, and she suffered for it. Why should he take that away from her? Why is he makbid on that? You just said that people are not makbid on that. So Gemara answers, you see that guy's a tough guy. He's not allowing his own children to eat from his table, right? We said that brisa is ein Saimach al Shulchanai. So in a situation like that, if that's where he's holding, you see that he's going to be makbid on this. However, the second brisa, where they are Saimach al Shulchanai, there he won't be makbid, because you see from the fact that he's allowing them to eat at the table, he doesn't have a lot of hakpadas. Another thing Gemara wants to know, when we said that it's put into storage to wait for them until they grow up, what do we mean? How do we store this money away? So Rav Chizda said you purchase a Sefer Torah. Rabba bar Rav Huna said you plant a tree and then he can eat the fruits all this time, and he has the tree when he grows up. Now, we had said before that Reish Lakish said the father doesn't collect the injury money. Now the Gemara quotes Reish Lakish and Rav Yechlan on that. So Reish Lakish says, like Rav, that the father does not collect injury money, he only gets Shvach Nur, he only gets Kesef Kedushin. Rav Yechlan says he does collect for Pitzia. Now, Pitzia is not the same as Chavala. Chavala is an injury. Pitzia is just a wound, but it's something that heals, or something that there's not a permanent limb injury. So the Gemara asks, the whole question that Rabbi Lazar had asked in the first place wasn't about a Pitzia, it was about a Chavala. So why would Rav Yechlan say that he collects her Pitzia? So there's no loss of a value from a Pitzia. So the Gemara answers, some types of Pitzia there are. Basically, Chanina said, if it's a facial Pitzia, there's a loss of a value specifically to Kiddushin, which the father collects, and therefore that's value that he would collect.